मैं तो दुनिया भर का लिखता हूँ
यार प्लीज कोई दरवाजा भी बंद करो. फक यार कोई बच्चा ही नहीं है.
आपका बच्चा नहीं है वैसे बहुत बच्चे
मतलब कोई किसी का बच्चा नहीं है यार. कोई दरवाजा बंद नहीं.
क्यों हाँ क्या वाला
So, Mr. Speaker, the motion for today's debate is that this House condemns the hashtag Not My President, right? And what is this House? This House is the rational people of America who reject this hashtag based on the principle that it is against the very ethos of the United States of America, right? It stands against any and every spirit of the United States of America, right? Now, let me first characterize what we are talking about, who we are talking about. It's the American president, right? Now, who is this American president? He's the elected head of the strongest power in the world, right? He's the person who is the face of this democracy, who is the face of the strongest democracy in the world, right? Now, what is this democracy and who is this person, right? Again, this person is the voice of America, right? He's called the first person of America, and he represents America on all international forums, right? He'll be the one meeting international people. He'll be the person meeting people from other countries and representing us, right? Representing our decisions and making sure he represents us aptly in order to make sure what is good for America happens, right? Now, again, what is the importance of this person in a democratic setup, right? A democratic setup head by a presidential form of government, right? Now, again, this is the person who makes all the important decisions in the government, right? This is the person who actually makes sure that everything happens smoothly in the government. He's actually the top order of the flow of power, right? Now, this is what the importance of the American president is, and this is what we have to characterize first of all in order to make sure the kind of power that we are talking about, right? Now, secondly, what is the thing that this person heads, right? It's the democracy. And how is this democracy particularly important for America? Is because America is the flag bearer of democracy in the world, Mr. Speaker, and that is inarguable in the sense that any and every place where democracy has suffered any and every place where democracy was hampered upon, it is America who has actually intervened and made sure that democracy stands, right? It is America who has actually stood guard by democracy and made sure that this guard resonates from its very home, right? That democracy is followed in its very home. This is the kind of democratic setup that we're talking about. Now, having characterized what the importance of the American democracy is through the world, I try to characterize what the democracy in America itself really is, right? Now, it's one of the most legit form of democracy, right? In the sense that there are debates occurring, there are legit debates occurring at every forum, right? There are intellectual debates occurring across all channels, wherein people come up and express their views throughout this campaign, right? Now, what is this campaign? What is this propaganda, right? The very notion on which any and every election is based is on contrasting propaganda, right? On propaganda that try to mirror the form of the people, that try to mirror the ideas of the people and actually resonate with them, right? And the idea that the propaganda that actually comes through is the one that mirrors these people, right? It is the actually one which was accepted by these people, and this is something that we need to understand, right? This is the legit form of democracy that is followed in US and has been followed so far, and there have always been contrasting opinion, and it is one of the opinions that actually wins, right? And what is this election that happens, right? There are people voting in electoral colleges, there are debates, and actually in the end, it is actually the people who decide who the winner is, right? And it is actually the people who decide who will represent them,
sir,
and who will, yes sir.
Sir, is a democratic system prone to changes, especially when there's talk about how Donald Trump did not even get the popular vote?
Exactly, I'll come to that later in my speech. I'll try to explain how that is a misfact in the very first place, right? And coming to that just in a minute, right? Now again, try to tell you what this election was all about. It's when people ultimately think on this propaganda and what represented them and actually go on to the vote for the person they wanted. Now, who is this person, Trump? Like, he's done nothing out of the ordinary to win this election. He's done nothing to break the democratic setup, as was your POI ladies, but he has done everything that is required of a democratic setup. He faced legit criticism, he faced legit debates, and actually came on top of that, right, through his propaganda. He said actually what the American people wanted to hear. He said, I want to make America great again, which the people wanted, right? They were very against the form of government that was there. They were rejecting the status quo, right? Now, what this person also, what all promises did he make, right? I'll bring employment to my people, and this is what the rational people of America want, right? I want me to have jobs, right? I want my people to have jobs. If there's a farmer in Texas who listens to Trump, he'll be happy in the sense that he's upholding the spirit of America, right? Secondly, again, Trump came up and said that I want the soldiers from Iraq to come up here at home and actually guard our borders, right? And actually save the lives of the border. So the point I'm trying to make is that he represented propaganda. He actually made his own propaganda which was mirrored in the people. So the very idea that you said that he was not made by popular opinion is flawed in the sense that he legitimately took part in this democratic setup and won this democratic election in a very ordinary sense that was followed throughout these years. So that POI stands flawed. Now again, let me come to what is this hashtag not my president, right? Now how is this just any other Twitter movement, and I'll tell you how it's flawed in the very principle that it shares, right? Now it's a movement on a public forum, it's a movement on a social forum wherein people come up and outrightly reject this notion of this person being my head, right? Please note the fact that they outrightly reject this position of power, this position of the office of power that represents them on all international forums, right? Now this is what this movement is all about. The outright rejection of a person who has been elected legitimately through a system of government which has been followed throughout the years, and now what you're doing is you're saying that though I do not accept this process, I do not accept the outcome, and I outrightly reject this person on a forum that is international and global. It's very, if you're right, it's very outreach, right? Now what is actually happening? It's creating a movement. It's being viewed as the next very cool thing, right? It's become the next ice bucket challenge. You see Olivia Wilde stating a thing like this hashtag not my president. You see a cool video and you share it all around with the very same tag without actually understanding the very ethos of the movement, right? It has become something unlike any other social movement where people align to it without actually understanding the very notion behind it. It's problematic in a sense because of the repercussion that it says, which I'll bring out later in my speech now. Now, a very important demarcation at this very point is how it's very different from me saying I do not accept the policies of my president on XYZ lines, instead of saying I do not accept this person being my president on the office of the United States and seeing these front. Now understand, we are very pro you saying that my president Donald Trump has contrasting views than me on the climate change. I do not believe that my president saying that climate change is wrong, but what we are against is the fact that you come up and say this person saying climate change is wrong is not my president. I do not accept him as the office of power. This is what this side proposition has a problem with, stating the democratic setup that you have characterized for you. Now coming to my first constructive, right? Now having characterized democracy, how it comes into picture is because this motion again goes against the very ethos of democracy, in the sense that you do not accept the democratic result, you do not accept a alleged result coming from a country which is actually the flag bearer of democracy. Again, in the sense it is very against the ethos of what we are propagating outside the world, in a sense that we do not accept it inside our country as well. So what it does is creates a mistrust inside the own country and sets a bad image of US across, and hence again our authority as the flag bearer of democracy will be hampered in this very sense. Secondly, again my second constructive is that it creates a barrier to the respect for this office of position of power, right? A legitimately elected office which is of a top down is actually being rejected in a sense. So again this goes against the very ethos of respect for that power. Now again, coming to how it hampers the discourse, right? This is a very important thing to note in this debate, right? What happens when you take a very right-wingy stand on something, right? What happens when you connect to something that is so inertial in its movement, right? That is so block think like in its movement, is that you fail to understand the opposition's views, right? In a sense that when you are in yes sir.
Sir, has this hashtag...
It's a predicted, right? So again, now continuing how it hampers the discourse, right? If you're a single person, if you're not aligned to a movement, when you outrightly reject someone as a president, you're open to views to try and understand what he means, right? But in a sense, when you're outrightly on such a right wing of the spectrum, right, when you do not actually want to see this person as the very president, you're not prone to understand what the thinking behind his policies are, right? What he actually thinks, in a sense that you do not actually actually recognize him as the face of the country, right? Now this is the kind of problem in discourse that we are talking about. When you don't actually want to listen to the person because you do not recognize that person as being up for that discourse, and this is the kind of problem to discourse happening that we are talking about. Secondly, the side opposition might come up and argue about the freedom of speech. Understand, Mr. Speaker, that very, very pro to freedom of speech, right? We are very pro you coming up and saying this thing to me. We are very pro us coming up and telling to you that we condemn your movement. But what we are against is the very ethos that you are propagating, right? The very ethos that is against democracy and that is very against the president of power, right? Now again, coming to the point of proposition, they might come up and try to trivialize what this function is, right? We tell you that once you come up and talk about the trivialization case, again you're trivializing the forum, you're trivializing how this movement is taking place. But what you cannot trivialize is the ethos that it breaks, right? The ethos of the United States image that it breaks, and that is what this side proposition is again. So very proud to propose.
I thank the Prime Minister for his speech. I now request the leader of the opposition to come forth and present the case from side opposition. What?
चिल है सही है चिल है बट
एक मिनट वीडियो अभी भी चल रहा है तो स्कूल स्टार्ट वाले वीडियो
टाइम कर लो तुम लोग
टाइम
No one else is timing.
Yeah, it's probably date 17.
हाँ ठीक है.
Okay, eight shadows and
Have to take photos.
can we start?
Mr. Speaker, let's start by understanding what the side proposition's case has been and let's understand why this movement is important in its very essence. So what Amol has talked about is the idea of how people are outrightly rejecting the president of such an important democracy. What he hasn't told us is why people are actually doing that, and which is very important for us to understand in this debate. So let's understand what this movement is actually about, considering he has not talked about this idea at all. What he's painted is a very simple picture of how he legitimately won the election, how such a sweet and innocent man, and there's nothing to protest at all. Then my first question is, why are people protesting? And let me answer the question for you, Mr. Speaker. There are two major reasons why people are protesting this president or this individual. First of all, the kind of policies and ideologies that he has talked about during his election campaign and even now. And secondly, the method by which he became president in the first place. So the kind of policies he's talking about is the idea of post-truth politics, something we have discussed in this tournament itself, where the ideas, the rational debates are based on rhetorics and random statements thrown about to divide people or have an emotional connect without giving any rationale behind the kind of policies. So when he talks about the idea of I want to bring back the Iraqi soldiers, etc., we tell you, Speaker, that the ideas like Mexicans bring this rape and drugs to our country, and how I'll not allow any Muslims to come into a country, etc., are also the ideas the same person has given in his election campaign. The second idea we're talking about, Mr. Speaker, here is the idea of how a president is elected in the US, Mr. Speaker, and this is also an idea people are questioning through this Not My President move. So basically what happened here is, even though Hillary Clinton got more number of votes, she didn't become the president, which is because the idea of winner takes all in US elections. So what happens here is, if a person wins majority, he gets all the electoral college votes, something that has led to Trump becoming the president, even though he didn't have the most number of votes around the camp. Yes, sir.
Ma'am, had he won the popular vote, would you still condemn this movement or would you not?
Yes, sir, we would still condemn this movement because there are certain ideologies that we are against which this person is propagating, and let's understand what that case is, Mr. Speaker. So they talk about the idea of spirit of democracy and how democracy is, so important and how used the flag bearer. Let's understand what is also important in democracy, the idea of evolution of democracy, the idea of discourse existing in democracy, and we tell you, Mr. Speaker, how this idea of hashtag not my president is actually central to such ideas existing in the society. So what is happening currently, Mr. Speaker? There is a certain section of group of people of US itself are coming together and supporting this hashtag and linking their issues and their problems with this hashtag. What kind of issues these people have? These people can be a minority group, let's say homosexuals or transgenders or Muslims or immigrants and so on and so forth. These people are linking themselves with this hashtag to go ahead and talk about the kind of problems they are facing, to go ahead and reject the policies that Trump has talked about or the ideas they do not agree with Trump on certain levels. What is this actually leading to? This is leading to a certain section of groups coming together, for example, homosexuals, women, etc., and coming together and protesting this person or his ideology, the kind of politics he has brought into picture, the kind of, things he has said in his election campaign, and the way he became president. All these ideas are being questioned in this case when people are coming together to support this hashtag. And let's understand why this hashtag is extremely important in this scenario. Understand, Trump is not just a person whose one policy is questionable or two policies are questionable. He's a person whose multiple policies, whose ideologies, multiple things are being questioned over and over by certain sections of people across the country. And even though he became the president, we tell you that he did not get the majority vote per se. So there are a lot of people who disagree with Trump on a lot of issues, and how these people are coming together to run a hashtag this and support this. And let's understand what kind of benefits this hashtag brings in this picture. So let's understand maybe that I'm a girl and I support women's rights. So I might, disagree with Trump on women's rights, something the kind of argument they're trying to run. Now there's a person who is a homosexual who supports homosexual rights, but I might not care about him, right? I might not care about homosexual rights at all. What is happening in this case is this hashtag not my president is bringing these groups together. It's bringing these groups together and tying them to this idea of, this president has a lot of questionable policies, and I'm going to question him on those policies as well as on the kind of metrics on which this person became the president in the first place. Understand what will happen in such a system did not exist, how these people did not come together. What will happen is, when a women's issue comes up, I will feel for that. You know what? Oh my God, he's saying something against women. How disrespectful. When that goes away and another issue about homosexual comes into picture, I wouldn't care. I don't care about homosexuals. What is happening in this case is there's a benefit for both the people coming together to support this cause. So right now I'm supporting homosexuals cause because when the women's cause comes into picture, this hashtag will unite us again and we'll go ahead and protest that cause too. And which is very important in this scenario. Understand, Mr. Speaker, why this is important. Exactly the kind of ideas that the side proposition is talking about. When they're talking about how Trump represents the country's views, we tell that he does not represent the exact country views per se, and how it's extremely important for people who have counter views and counter narratives lot on the democracy. Mr. Speaker, it does the exact contrary. It gives the idea of how this powerful democracy also has this huge counter narrative existing, and how these people are actually going ahead and propagating their ideas, even though this person is the most important person in the world probably. What this gives the idea of is how in a democracy, even though there is a leader elected, people can still go ahead and protest. People can still go ahead and protest against even the most important person in the world. And these are the kind of ideas that we want in the society to exist. And we don't understand why the rational people of US will oppose something which the rational people of US are themselves doing. So they have to tell us why these people are, condemning this idea. That's something that's coming from the people of US itself. That's something that's coming from a huge section of US itself. So basically what I've told you is about the third speech is this idea of how Trump actually came into politics and how he became the president. It's the idea of the kind of post-politics he ran, and because the winner takes all policy exists in US. We tell Mr. Speaker that there are a lot of groups who disagree on Trump on a lot of policies and the way he became the president, and how these groups are coming together and having this hashtag not my president to use as a way to channelize these people and have an active protest and an active discourse, which in turn will be a bigger incentive for the parliament or the Congress to actually go ahead and consider these people's right, because we tell you that smaller number of groups don't get that much attention as bigger groups do. We tell you, Mr. Speaker, that these people will get the attention because now they have a much bigger channel for these people to come together, and how even if I don't care about homosexuals, I realize that if I want this support in later future for my own campaign, I need to go ahead and support these people, and how this ideology of rejecting this person has actually led to a much better discourse, and a discourse on how this person is actually elected, something that they have to come and prove how that ideology will still exist. If that this way of electing president might not be the best way, so which is why we're very, very proud.
I thank the leader of the opposition for his speech. I now request the Deputy Prime Minister to come forth and explain the case from side proposition.
लास्ट पॉइंट है मेरा बेस्ट
Am I audible? Am I audible? No. Not audible. यार आगे कोड पढ़ लो क्या लिखा?
कोड पढ़ ले.
I'm gonna
need to be alive to them.
यार कोड पढ़ लो.
Wait, what's the team name again?
कोड पढ़ राघव कोड पढ़.
Sure.
यार कोड क्या है बे?
Abhi team name is
I'm gonna whip you tonight.
I'm gonna whip you tonight.
No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna depute tonight.
I'm gonna deputy you twice tonight.
That's why we will not here.
Oh, that burns.
Is it enough confidence? Can I start here?
एक ही बार
That's
मिलेंगे.
why क्या बताओ?
That's why Kote is not here.
चलो चलो चलो.
Whenever Arvind gets over. ऐसे.
Mr. Speaker, very sad today that the side opposition chooses not to engage with us as to how this will actually undermines that office and runs a case without actually acknowledging our case, wherein they talk about two things majorly. They are not okay with the system of elections in the US. They are not okay with the system of elections in the US. And secondly, why they are not okay with these policies which Trump professes. I will tell you how these both are flawed. Point number one, if they are not okay with the system of elections in the US, I will tell you this is not the right way to go about and change that system. And why is this so? Because we tell you that now these elections are already happening. We tell you that kind of discourse, what kind of process we are following is something which A needs to take place prior to the election, and B, even if it is taking place after the elections, does not need to undermine the office of the president. We go ahead and tell you that this is the very system that has been placed in US since the establishment of democracy over there, and they need to establish to us as to why exclusively they think now that this particular election is something which they have a problem with the system, wherein we tell you that previous presidents have also been elected on the basis of this particular system, and then we had no such movement. Now secondly, when they come forward and talk about this post-truth politics or the propaganda that Trump professed, they do not tell us as to why this is something which is different from all elections. We tell you that each and every election, in each and every democracy, in each and every setting has a certain set of propaganda. We tell you that these propaganda are something which are a two-way street. We tell you today that if I am a candidate and I am professing a propaganda that the people do not believe with, that the people do not relate to, I will not win the election. I will not connect with those people. Wherein we come there and argue for you that this propaganda is something which is derived out of the soul, out of the public sentiment in the very first place, and we tell you that the public has every right to criticize or accept that propaganda which is run prior to the election in the election campaign. And we tell you that Trump passed through all those tests, he participated in all those debates, not in the last minute. these people had the same force to criticize the kind of propaganda he ran, and we tell you that in a democracy, which we tell you is characterized by differing opinions, we tell you that this particular criticizing of this post-truth politics is something which the people did not buy. And we tell you that is why we tell you we do not have a problem with this propaganda being present in the very first place, because we tell you this propaganda is something which the people and the democracy have legitimized, and they need to come up here and argue for us why they are against this form of legitimacy, wherein we tell you this propaganda passed through the same metrics which every president has passed through, and it passed all those metrics. Further they come up here and basically build our case when they provide us with this constructive as to how now people will start relating, people who have small issues will start relating with this cause. We tell you that is the exact problem that we have, that this movement becomes an aura wherein even if I do not know what Trump stand on one particular policies, because I do not connect with a particular strand of policy, I go ahead and share this hashtag not my president on 10 different policies, and that is the problem that we have over here. We tell you that this eliminates that me actually thinking what this person is doing. This eliminates that particular idea, and this leads to this aura being formed, whereas the hashtag not my president is the next cool thing. Hey, the homosexual and the progressive and the liberal people are doing it, so I need to go ahead and accept it even though I might not have any problem. And we tell you that all those movements are also recognized in the US, wherein we tell you that the gay parade or the feminism parade still sees that large turnout, and we are completely okay with that with that medium of protesting against the administration, that medium of professing your views against the administration. And we tell you they need to tell to us as to why this is very, very necessary for these voices to come out, wherein we tell you they already come out, and if this kind of a move leads to those voices being masked by people who do not actually even understand what is happening and just come out and join the movement just for the heck of it, because they see 10 other people are doing it without actually rationalizing what they actually want out of this particular movement. And even if we tell you that these people actually relate to this, we tell you we are not okay with this hashtag not my president, which is something that they fail to catch up upon. They tell us that they want people to go ahead and debate the ideologies, debate the ideas which a particular government or a particular leader has. We tell you we are okay with them doing that. We do not see the need for this hashtag not my president, because out here we tell you that this is not protest against the person or the ideas, this is a protest against that particular office, and that is why we have a problem with it. This is a protest against the acceptance, which is the key thing in a democracy, because we tell you that if this acceptance goes away from a democracy, if this acceptance that this particular result is something which is a derivative of a process in which we all are involved goes away, we tell you today democracy in itself is undermined. And why is that? Because we tell you that a democratic system always has these differing views. Those differing views are put to contest in these elections, and some views out of that emerge victorious, emerge popular, resonate with the people. And we tell you that is where we tell you that though that results have to be upheld by the people, even though they might have differing views, because they still have the media to go ahead and oppose those views in a democratic way, in the parliament, even in the parliament, on the streets, on social media, everywhere. But we tell you what the key out here is, that when today a United States national goes ahead and says that he is not my president, he is saying that I do not believe in the electoral process of America, I do not believe in democracy in America, and hence I do not believe that this person will be my president, and that is why we have a problem with it. We tell you that how they come up here and talk about as to how discourse is something which will happen. We tell you that discourse is a two-way street. We tell you that now this election which you do agree has been extremely polarizing for America in the very first place. We tell you now these people need to come together and have a dialogue as to how to run this country in the very first place, because we tell you that polarization is something which will not sustain the American society, because Trump, whatever an American might want, Trump is supposed to be the president for the next 4 years, and we tell you outrightly going ahead and rejecting him as the president, the only thing it does is it further antagonizes that the divide which is currently present in the society. It further deepens that divide, wherein people are not agreeing with him being the president, and hence we tell you that this further deepens that divide, and hence the discourse which needs to happen between these very opposing views on which this election was held, against the one being the administrative issues that people had, and the other being the kind of politics that Trump ran. We tell you that they need to have a dialogue first. They need to understand that this person has become the president, voice their opinions at the right fora, have a sense of acceptance of that office, and then need to go ahead and actually this discourse will happen. And hence we tell you that the discourse is something which will be limited if this movement is not condemned today. Yes, sir.
Go on.
Okay. So, having rebutted their case, let me talk to you about what has been our case and what they do not essentially come up here and counter. I tell you, leave everything apart. Leave all the arguments which have come up from both sides apart. We tell you today what this does is this undermines the office of the American president and the authority of the American president at a global level. We tell you that today the president, that particular office derives its legitimacy from the support that it has from the people, from that electoral process that has taken place in the United States. And when the same electoral college goes ahead and says that he is not my president, we tell you that that office loses its legitimacy even on a global front. We tell you on a global front this is very, very bad for America, because then that office doesn't have the same power to bargain, doesn't have the power to represent that particular state of America at multiple international fora, which is what we have an extreme issue with as the residents of America, because we do not think our voice at a global level should be undermined because of these internal conflicts, wherein we already have different media to go ahead and express these internal conflicts. Having said that, what our case has been essentially in one line is that we as America have been the flag bearers of democracy, and we have been the people who have expressed our support for democracy, have vouched for democracy, and today if you go ahead and do not condemn hashtag not my president, we are undermining democracy both on a global level and a local level. We are legitimizing each and every other movement which says that I do not relate with a particular prime minister or a particular president, each and every movement which says I do not believe in the outcomes of democracy, because we tell you democracy is all about acceptance of different opinions and the right way to profess those opinions. And we tell you that a democratically elected office has a particular respect, and that respect for that office is something which is undermined by this move, which has very great tangible harms in terms of local and global disbelief in democracy, lack of power of representation at a global level, that discourse which is very necessary given the kind of divide that has happened in the American society. And we tell you, because of all these fronts, we are extremely proud of them. Thank you.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for his speech. I now request the Deputy Leader of the Opposition to come forth and extend the case from side opposition.
Oh, perfect.
Hello?
Suraj hai.
I'm audible? Whose timing is one of your timing?
Yeah. Maybe.
I'll time.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, if Donald Trump goes out tomorrow and repeals the Obamacare Act, I tell you millions of Americans will die because they won't be able to afford health care. Ladies and gentlemen, if Donald Trump goes to tomorrow and builds the Mexico wall, I tell you millions of people will die again, because the funds which could have probably saved someone's life would not have been properly allocated. Ladies and gentlemen, if Donald Trump continues to propel the kind of politics which he had before the election, and that's where the major difference lies, right? So even if we accept that propaganda has become a part of today's elections, we tell you that the kind of politics which Donald Trump has professed is a politics where post-vote politics is not only a pre-election process, but it has become the reality of governance itself, right? And when I tell you, we tell you that the kind of policies, and understand about how it's not a single policy. Understand, we talk about Obamacare, we talk about Muslims, we talk about immigrants, we talk about people, the LGBTQ community, we talk about the abortion bill, which was passed which was passed like last night, right? So understand about how it's not only about one issue where I can probably protest about a single issue and draw attention towards it, right? Understand about how Donald Trump it's not about demonetization sucks, right? Understand about how it's a multitude of issues and each of the issues is resonated to by a different section of the community. And I'll take it after a couple of minutes, right? So understand, because of the multitude of issues, we believe that it's not only a particular policy of the president which is wrong, we believe that it's the entire ideology which Donald Trump professes, which itself is wrong, right? So understand that when we mean not my president, understand that this is not symbolic of us not believing democracy as we claim us to be. We believe that this is not saying that okay, America does not want to be a democracy, but rather it promotes discourse about relooking at the kind of democracy that we live in today, right? If we want to have laws which probably change our governance systems where people's opinions is actually represented, we believe that any kind of discourse, any kind of hashtag which actually promotes that kind of discourse is a necessity in today's America, right? Understand that when they try to paint this picture about how not my president means undermining the institution of democracy, we don't understand how that happens, right? We tell you that rather what happens is that different people can come together on a multitude of issues, right? So as we talked to you in the previous speech itself, not taking up after a couple of minutes, as we talked to you in the previous speech itself, we tell you that about how even before the very reason why Donald Trump became the president of the United States of America was because there was no collective consolidated narrative against the person, right? We tell you that every week it was another issue. Not taken, sir. 1 week it was Muslims, the other week it was LGBTQ, the third week it was something else, right? So and on some weeks people resonated with the issue, and on other weeks people did not resonate with the issue. But that kind of collective consolidation which you needed as today's America, as a citizen of today's America did not happen, right? Yes, sir.
So who decides what we need in a particular election?
People, sir. So that's what we believe, right? We tell you that if a majority of people believe that okay, this person is not my president, we believe that even them asking for laws for a possible repealment of the president is a positive sign for the democracy, right? We believe what we argue to you is that democracy is not a static institution, right? Rather, democracy is dynamic, and as people come out to the streets, as people protest on a multitude of issues, and that's how democracy is actually realized, right? We don't understand that how this undermining of the president happens, right? And the only claim and the only tangible benefit that they have is about how the tangible harm that they have is about how a bargaining power internationally will get reduced, right? We tell you that does not matter, right? When millions of Americans are dying, we tell you that is not a cost that we are willing to pay, right? We tell you that about how the fundamentals of democracy rely upon the fact that the public voice is accurately voiced onto the streets, right? We tell you that about how Donald Trump is not a dictator, right? We tell you that every law that he passes or every law that he signs will have to go to a Congress, and this is something which to miss, right? We tell you that if there's an effective voice against that movement, effective voice that okay, we are not in support of building the Mexico wall. We tell you that the Congress has no option but to take note of the people on the street, right? And we tell you that because this is a movement, because this is a hashtag which does not focus on a single issue, because this is a hashtag which incorporates everyone's attention, which draws everyone's attention towards it, we tell you that the kind of impact that it can have, the kind of counter narrative it can create is unparalleled by any other hashtag, right? And also now not taken. Please wait for a couple of minutes, right? Now also understand that kind of arguments that you try to use both sides, right? In the first speech itself, Amol said and talked about how the American system is based on rational debates and people listen to debates, and that's how Donald Trump got elected, right? And then on the second front, Raghav argues to you that when this movement is coming into picture, people suddenly see 10 people promoting this movement, and then they themselves start promoting this movement, right? So we tell that you cannot run this argument both ways, right? Either people are rational both of the times, or either people are irrational both of the times, right? We tell you that our argument stands on both these fronts, right? If people are rational, then we are okay, right? We tell you that this is just a voice coming out, this is just a kind of attention being drawn to a consolidated ideology that Donald Trump represents, right? But we tell you that if people are irrational, we tell you that if Donald Trump himself can use this post-truth politics, can himself use propaganda, I asked you today, why cannot people of America use that propaganda themselves, right? We tell you that the kind of attention that we need today will involve some kind of propaganda, will involve people coming together, right? We tell you that I as an American who opposes Donald Trump's kind of politics needs everyone's support, right? If I am an LGBTQ person, if I am gay, not taken, sir, my right, the kind of life that I will live today will be hampered by one of his policies, right? I cannot rely on my group itself because my group itself is smaller, right? But when I realize that okay, there are other groups as well, and then we can come together on a common ground, right? We believe that any hashtag that provides that common ground is a legit hashtag, right? So yes, sir.
Sir, did Trump already assume office and implement those policies and then this movement was started, or was it just a rhetoric after his election?
So we tell you that similar policies like these have already started coming to a picture, right? When he passed the abortion law last night, we tell you that things like these have come into the picture, right? But we tell you that because of hashtags like these, what is happening is that people in America are realizing that okay, even though Donald Trump probably became the president according to the system, this is not what sizable number of Americans stand for, right? We tell you that if you do not allow hashtags like this to come into the picture, if you start condemning hashtags like this, we tell you that a collective consolidation of the anti-narrative against Trump which is required cannot happen, right? We tell you that this is the most effective kind of consolidation which can happen, right? So understand that the kind of arguments that we come up with in this debate, right? Number one, we tell you that democracy or even the office of president is not a sacrosanct institution, right? So even if we accept that this is a question against the office of the president, we tell you that we need to relook at it, right? We need to have discourse on it, right? So the only counter that they have is let's have discourse on the issue, let's talk about climate change, let's talk about gays, let's talk about Muslims, let's talk about immigration, right? But we tell you that when it's not one issue, it's an ideology, right? It's a culture of issues, right? We tell you that the only way that you can actually call out the elephant is when you call out the elephant himself, right? And we tell you that the elephant in this case is Donald Trump, right? We tell you that it's not that he's having a bad day at office and he's passing his bill, right? We tell you that it's his ideology which we need to oppose collectively, right? And the kind of benefits that we give to you is that when you have this hashtag, you get a common group of people coming together. I sacrifice today because tomorrow I know that you are going to sacrifice for me. So even though I might not resonate with my issue today, but I will support you because we have this common enemy, we are against this common person, and together we will decide what the American voice will be and not this one person, right? Because ultimately, we believe that nothing in democracy is more important than the voice of people. Very proud to oppose.
I thank the deputy leader of the opposition for his speech. I now request the proposition whip to come forth and demonize the debate.
सर देखो तो
what does that mean? अथर्व का टैग अच्छा है ना कल्टू का 6.9
So for the last time from side proposition, ladies and gentlemen, let's understand what this debate has been about. I'll tell you about the themes of this debate as well as tell you about why side proposition has won this debate in itself. So the very first assumption that side opposition tries to come over here and run is that this hashtag is actually the sentiment of every person in America, and every person in America is actually siding with this kind of a hashtag. And we tell you that we actually came to know about the sentiments of the people of America when the election process took place, ladies and gentlemen, and had there not been a sizable section of people in America with Donald Trump, he would not have become the president of the United States in itself. And so that is why we tell you that there are enough people, there is a sizable number of people in America who do support Donald Trump. And now let me explain to you what is the main theme of clash in this debate and how we win this and how we win this theme. So what we tell you is that this kind of a hashtag actually ends the scope for discourse. And instead of promoting it, and how does this end the scope of discourse, ladies and gentlemen? Let's understand that. Consider, for example, a farmer in Texas. He wanted a job for himself, but because of the current immigration policies and because of the way the system has been working till now, this person is not being able to get a job, and this person is had to be forced to be into farming. What happens when Trump comes and talks about giving people employment? This person is actually motivated to vote for Trump, ladies and gentlemen, because he feels very closely to this idea of getting a job, and so he votes for Trump. And not taken. And it is because of this kind of a support that Trump has actually been able to come into power as the president of the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what happens when this sort of a hashtag comes into the picture? Let's understand when this hashtag is coming to the picture. It has come into the picture when Trump has not even started coming up with his policies, ladies and gentlemen. And that is where we tell you that this kind of a hashtag is more a rhetoric, is more a trend against Trump and against the office of the president, and in undermining the office of the president, ladies and gentlemen. So what happens? One person shares the hashtag not my president, not taken, sir. Not my president. What happens? A person who does not even know the proper policy of Trump goes ahead and shares this hashtag because he feels that he's supposed to be against Trump. And a lot of people share this hashtag, ladies and gentlemen. And this becomes a sort of a trend that if you do not share this hashtag, to chutiya. If you do not share this hashtag, you're not the kind of a person who has open thinking. You're not a rational person, and that is where we tell you that the problem arises. Ladies and gentlemen, because this makes that farmer in Texas feel that he's not a rational person, and so he's being pushed away from this notion of discourse in the first place. He's being pushed away from this idea where people where he wants to engage with people and talk about the kind of policies that Trump has, and that is where we tell you that discourse ends in this kind of a hashtag. Yes, sir.
Sir, given that Trump is already the president, who needs his voice to be heard more? The person who supported Trump or the person who wants an anti-narrative against Trump?
We tell you that all kind of people need that voice to be heard, and we tell you that a multiple fora exists for that voice to be heard, ladies and gentlemen. That is the second. This brings me to the second most important theme of clash. We tell you that this kind of a hashtag. What is the kind of effect this has? Let's assume that it does bring to forth the kind of sentiment that person wants to have against Trump, but at the cost of what, ladies and gentlemen? At the cost of undermining the respect, at the cost of undermining the respect of the office of president of the American state, and at the cost of undermining the democracy in America. And that is where we tell you that this major harm comes out of such a hashtag, which is mere rhetoric and a trend, ladies and gentlemen. So. That is the actual reason why we tell you that we have a problem with this kind of a narrative. Yes.
So why would a Trump supporter actually go ahead and share this hashtag?
Why would a Trump supporter actually go ahead and share this hashtag? If a Trump, so we tell you that a person, even if he's a Trump supporter and he has a sort of a balanced view to his policy, if he's against it, but we tell you that we're not against the hashtag like. We do not support Trump's view on climate change, or we do not support Trump's view on feminism. We tell you that we're against this particular hashtag, ladies and gentlemen, and that is where we have the biggest problem with this. We tell you that the opposition has failed to tell you why this particular election is so important for this sort of a view to be coming up. We tell you that even earlier, Al Gore had lost the election even though he had more votes. We tell you that even Bush had not won the election. Not won the election on popular vote, but had actually won it the way Trump won it. And we tell you that side opposition has failed to tell you why in this particular election we need to start questioning the American democracy. Why in this particular election we need to start questioning the respect of the office of the president. And that is where we tell you that the major problem in this debate lies, because side opposition does not talk to you about how this undermines the respect and the global superiority of the office of the president.
Send you.
Yes.
Sir, if the hashtag was not the correct system to nominate the president, will that also undermine the office of the president?
We tell you that yes, it does also undermine the office of the president, ladies and gentlemen, because that is the way American democracy has been functioning till now, and that is the way people did have had a faith in American democracy for the past 250 years, and that is why we tell you that this sort of a hashtag also does undermine the office of the president. We tell you that a system for checks and balances exist, as Anmol had pointed out in his speech. If tomorrow Trump is going to go and pass a anti-climate change policy, it has to be passed by the Congress, and we tell you that it is because of the existence of this system of checks and balances, such sort of a hashtag is not really required. And that is where we tell you that this is not the right way to change the system, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the right way to change the system. That's in part because of how it undermines the office of the president, and also because the other ways in which the American democracy has been functioning for the past 250 years is the way through which discourse has always happened in that society, and is also the way through which change has indeed taken place. But something like undermining the office of the president has never been done before. Yes, sir.
Sir, if Donald Trump is allowed to use propaganda, should people of America also have the right to use propaganda?
We tell you that you can actually go ahead and not support the campaign of Donald Trump. You can go and criticize the campaign of Donald Trump. We do not have a problem with that, ladies and gentlemen. The problem we have is with actually criticizing the office of the president in itself, is with criticizing the American democracy in itself, and that is where we tell you that the major problem in this debate lies. So, what have been the pitfalls of this kind of a move, ladies and gentlemen? As the side has been telling you throughout the debate, we tell you that the authority of the president and the legitimacy of the office falls down. Why does it fall down? Because the office derives its power from the support of the people, of America. And when someone goes ahead and says that hashtag not my president, we tell you that this actually throws out a global sort of sign that listen, people have lost faith in Donald Trump, and so he is not the right person to be the representative of America. That the president of America is not the right representation of the people of America, and that is why we tell you that this problem lies. We also talk to you about how this ends discourse in this sort of scenario, and we tell you that this brings in a sort of disbelief in American democracy on a global and local level. So the 2 points of clashes being the ending of discourse, as well as the undermining of the office of the US president, and we tell you that in both cases the harms of this sort of a hashtag is much bigger than the benefit that side opposition proposes.
I thank the proposition whip for his speech. I now request the opposition whip to come forward and
लिखे उसके टैगलाइन बोला हम साथ
Bro, who the fuck is this guy? Oh fuck.
read the code. Give us 7. Bro.
Next time, bro.
That photo is also like is the statue.
Should I start? Am I audible?
No.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. I'm starting. Cool. Coming from the last time from the side opposition, let me tell you first thing, we've already won this debate, and now I'll tell you why we won this, right? So starting by countering the arguments bring by the side proposition, right? Countering by what proposition we've talked to you about. So they come in their question, and I talk about rebutting their argument by argument, right? So the first thing they talk about is hashtag is the sentiment of the whole America, or they question this, right? We tell you that even if it's not the whole sentiment of the America, it is the sentiment of a considerable population of America, and this considerable population of America needs its voice heard, and because it needs its voice heard, and we are telling you that this voice is getting heard under the umbrella of this hashtag not my president by coming off many groups such as anti-LGBT and LGBT supporters, women supporters. This umbrella is getting created. This umbrella now has a collective voice. This collective voice is a stronger counter narrative, and that is why we tell you this is very important to exist in the status quo, right? What else, right? So they come and the prophet comes this up, and this is a new point when I prophet while still counter it. They come and they talk about this idea of jobs later. They come up and they talk about this idea of now people won't get jobs. So we tell you one thing. First thing which we tell you is that now, what is important? Do anti-Trump people need their voice to be heard, or do pro-Trump people need their voice to be heard? Anti-Trump people need their voice more to be heard because Trump will anyway cater to the needs of pro-Trump people, and they themselves concede that Trump is not even doing that because they believe that pro-Trump people who supported Trump, they are also going on Twitter and they are also working on this hashtag. So we tell you that what have people realized in today's times? People have today realized that Trump is fucking us over. What is happening now? The people who voted for the Trump in the first place after the election realized later that Trump is making policies which are totally antithetical. So somebody who voted Trump because Trump promised more jobs now is regretting it because he believes that policies of Trump, statements of Trump which he's done after coming to office, the moment he won the election, his statements are contrary. His statements are something which a person does not believe in, and this person now believes that I need to oppose this Trump. And this very person who supported Trump in the first place is now going against the Trump, and we believe this voice needs to be heard, right? So what are we telling you here? That the counter narrative, the anti-Trump people in the first place, they are getting consolidated. What else are we telling you? The people who realize that Trump is fucking up, even those people are now countering Trump, and those people need to counter Trump because Trump got its mandate from those people, right? So we tell you that people are the idea of this hashtag is to get created as an umbrella. This umbrella is very important for the counter narrative to exist. And yeah, sure.
So what is the exclusive need for this umbrella wherein other forums do
Yeah,
exist and has Trump even started making policies which people are criticizing?
Right. So first things first. What is happening in today's times, right? So the day Trump got elected, what happened was that one group came up and they talked about that Trump is not doing this, Trump is not doing that. But you know what happened? As happened during the election, one day LGBT people protested, one day women people protested. So now what are we telling you? What is this hashtag doing? Now LGBT and women people are getting together, and these people are getting together. And why are we telling this opposition will be consolidated? We are telling this to you because of the existence of this umbrella. Because now LGBT people see that today women people are protesting. That today women people are protesting, so we should also go because tomorrow they will also support when it comes to our move, right? Also coming about their second idea of how policies are getting created, etc. So we need to take into consideration how has Trump been after how he's won this election. Right from the moment Trump got elected, Trump has gone against how they believe on this 250 years of American democracy. Trump has gone and he's talked about how he's gone on how he does not believe in the one China policy. He's gone on and he's talked about Mexico, etc. So even if we believe that 250 years of American democracy is important and it should stay, by that metric also Trump is going against the status quo. Trump is going against the 250 years, and that is why this should happen. Now let us tell you one thing. What is actually democracy? What is true democracy, which they say America is the flag bearer of in the world? We tell you that true democracy is where dynamism is there, and we tell you that when they talk about how they say that you cannot question how they say how. Yeah, so they say how can you question how a president gets elected? We tell you that it is the very idea of the true American democracy that you can question how something happened in the US American system. Then, sir, what are you doing every 20 minutes? I'll take it in the last minute. Yeah, so what else, right? Where was I? Yeah, so I was talking to you about how dynamism is very important in democracy, and this dynamism is going to happen when you are, when counter narratives will be there. And this counter narratives, by its very existence, is sir, I'll take it in the last minute, right? So what else? What was I talking about? Right. So I'll move further, right? What else? Right? So they talk about. So what have we told you till now? Till now we have told you that Trump has fucked America. And we have told you that even if Trump has not fucked America, people believe that Trump has fucked America, and these people's voices need to be heard. We are telling you that what is happening in today's times. People who initially were anti-Trump, they are now getting a consolidated voice. This consolidated voice, we tell you, was not presented earlier, and because every new day, every other day, there was a new issue, right? And this new issue did not get due attention. And this issue did not get due attention. Now all these issues are getting due attention, and since these issues are getting due attention, more discourse will happen, and consolidation of views will happen. Opposition will be there, and we have also countered their point of how we have also shown you how even Trump supporters are going anti-Trump. Moving further on to our case, right? What was our case here? So what was our case?
Once you accept, I can ask.
I'll take it later, sir. I have told you. So speak. What have I told you? I told you about how. What are we are talking to you about? How we've shown you some benefits here. We have also talked to you about how the very idea of America is now getting protected. We have shown you benefits when later, sir. When Priyanshi, this is not letting me speak. What is this? So what are we telling telling you here. So they come up and the very important point of how people using this rhetoric now. The people using this rhetoric is very important because even if we go by their idea of how Trump used rhetoric to win the election, we tell you why cannot people use this rhetoric to make their voices heard in today's times, to make these things relatable, right? And so we have told you benefits on two sides, rational side and anti-rational side. For the rational people, what is going to happen now? The rational people will anyway now look at the consolidation, they'll now anyway look at all these opposition metrics and they'll make a good decision by themselves. But even the people who are not rational enough, they will also now be moved by this rhetoric, and we have every right to use this rhetoric in order to counter Trump, right? Your question, sir.
Sir, two things. What is the exclusive need of this fora, given that alternate foras exist?
Sir,
given that this is a rhetoric.
Sir, I mean the idea of counter foras not existing. We tell you that the idea is that real consolidation is happening in our case, and we've already elaborated on this further why this exclusive need exists, right? So. What else are we talking to you about here? The whole idea is that we've shown you benefits, we've countered their harms, and therefore we win this debate. How have we done that? We've told you how true democracy is what we are talking about. When they talk about how flag bearers of democracy in America, blah blah blah, we tell you that when discourse will happen, when there will be an avenue for opposition, that is when real democracy will there. So we've told you that this hashtag by virtue of its existence has consolidated people who are anti-Trump, has consolidated people, and coming back to this idea of them questioning the president, the idea here is that you need to explain to me how exactly is this that you are opposing the office of president. We tell you that what this movement exactly is. This movement is against Trump and his policies and what he's been talking about right from his campaign time and right from the moment he won the majority vote, right? We've told you there's no change come into place and like no change in terms of Trump's rhetoric, no change in terms of Trump's idea, and we are very proud to win this debate on the metrics of professing true democracy and talking to you about how this counter narrative is existing. Thank you.
I thank the opposition for his speech. I now request the opposition reply. 3+1. 3+1.
Hello. Guys, can you sit down?
Can we please get done with this?
Mr. Speaker, for the final time from the side of opposition in Intra-IITPD 2017, I tell you that the case from our side has been based on one major principle, right? We believe that when movements are consolidated, when there's larger movement in terms of number of issues, we believe that movement is stronger, right? We believe that movement can have a better impact, can have a better discourse, and can be a better voice against people who believe that they can suppress the other voice just because they're a billionaire, just because they're a president of the country, right? Also, understand the kind of concessions that we have had from the other side, right? On one hand, they want us to argue against the issues about how we should have campaigns against the issues, right? On the other hand, when we ask them that is a campaign which is hashtag not the right system to elect president, and does that undermine the office of the president? Abhimanyu Dubey today tells you that yes, it does, right? And what happens when they make that concession, right? We tell you that according to them, that what has been written 250 years ago by people in America is gospel truth, right? And I argue that it's not true, right? I argue that democracy is dynamic, and that dynamism comes into the picture when people start questioning the institutions of democracy itself, right? So we believe that even if it is a question to the authority of the president of the country, and number one, we tell you that no, it is not as big a question to democracy, right? People are not burning the White House. People are not saying let's go violent, let's go haywire, right? People are merely questioning that a person who represents this ideology cannot be the voice of a large section of the country, right? We tell you that is all this movement stands for, right? Now, what are the other counters, right? They tell you that why now, why before the laws have been passed, right? We tell you that if I'm a gay person, I don't want to be called an illegal person tomorrow, right? We tell you that I need to act before he actually manages to fuck me, right? They also question about why Donald Trump is why Donald Trump is a point about which people are starting questioning this system of democracy, right? We tell you that people realize that they are fucked when they are fucked hardest, right? And we tell you that that is exactly what has happened, right? Now, what are the points that have come from our side? Number one, we tell you that they have been completely unclear on the point of propaganda. At some point of time, they argue about how American system is based on rational discourse, rational debates, and on second point of time, they talk about how propaganda is used by everyone. Number one, I tell you that the kind of propaganda which has been used by Donald Trump, not only before election, not only during campaigning, but even after assuming office, even after becoming the president-elect, is unparalleled, right? And number two, we tell you that okay, even if it is propaganda, even if propaganda is acceptable, I tell you that because if Donald Trump can give propaganda to his populace, I tell you that populace of America can give the propaganda back to him, right? So even if people do not rationally believe in not my president, if this hashtag is even if it is a propaganda, I tell you that people in America who believe that his policies are not the correct policies have the right to do so, right? Now what is the last ground on which the case remains, right? They argue about how it's not the entire population, it does not represent the complete sentiment, right? To which we asked another very simple PR to Abhimanyu Dubey, right? We asked him who needs his voice to be heard more, right? A person who already has his favorite president in office, who is already going to cater to his person because he has that similar kind of ideology, or the person who Donald Trump can very easily neglect, right? We tell you that it's the person who Donald Trump can neglect, who did not support Donald Trump's policy, to actually go out in the streets, right? And we tell you that this hashtag, the benefit that comes from this hashtag is about how this movement is not limited to a particular community based on sexual orientation or religion or caste or ethnicity. We tell you that it's a movement, it spans all those movements. It's an umbrella movement, and the need for an umbrella movement is that umbrella movements are much larger. And now, when 5 million people walk in America in the women's march, it's not only a women's march, people realize it's a multitude of issues, right? So when that happens, Donald Trump can no longer claim to be the sole representative of a narrative in America. I'm telling you that because of the creation of this anti-narrative, the Congress in America will need to consider that as well. And even if it comes at the cost of reduced bargaining power of Donald Trump, we believe it's much better than people dying because of his idiotic policies. Very proud of those.
I thank the opposition reply speaker and now request the proposition reply. The last official speech of Intra-IITPD 2017.
Ladies and gentlemen, probably my last competitive speech in IIT. Let me tell you where and when these guys clearly lose the debate and do not even rise up to the occasion to debate what the issue was. First and foremost, when they come up here and sort of use wordplay and point fingers at us as to telling that we use propaganda and rational decisions interchangeably, what we argue over here is very, very simple. We just argue over here that USA has an election process which is followed. USA has a process in which there are debates, there is open criticism of people based on whatever grounds the public wants. We tell to you that each election has its own set of issues which are derived by a two-way street. They need to resonate with the people and then only they will be accepted by the people, and based on these ideas, this entire electoral process takes place, and that is the only argument we put forth. We do not argue on what basis does this entire election process happen. We tell you that the basis is something which is very unique to each and every election, and it is very, very justified in terms of whichever of these propaganda or basis seeks validation in the election. They needed to argue why this election is something which is very different, in which we cannot trust this validated basis in the very first place. Second of all, their main problem lies that they do not believe in the system of electing the president, as in they probably want that the person who has the popular vote should be the president. We have multiple counters to this. Understand when we argue now that the reality is that Trump will be the president for the next 4 years. We argue that there has been enough polarization for Trump and against Trump. We argue for you that this kind of propaganda out there, which they themselves concede to in the last speech, is pure rhetoric. It is not based on policies, it is pure rhetoric. We tell you this further deepens that divide without even providing a rational basis to that divide, and that is the problem we have with their case. We tell you if you want to change the electoral system, go ahead and do it in a manner which does not undermine the office of the president, which does not undermine the person elected in the office, because that person is something which you yourselves have elected for, and that policy of election is something which you yourselves have believed into. They need to tell us as to why this policy is wrong in order to argue why we need to change it, and that is also something that they do not do. They need to tell us as to what has changed today, that when suppose Bush was elected by the same policies and now Trump is elected by the same policies, what is the difference that we have over here, wherein we tell you that that election also had its own issues and each election has its own issues. Now further, once they have conceded that how this is rhetoric and this is not based on policies, and as to how the only purpose it solves is that we change this, the way elections are conducted, we tell you that they then argue about how we need a consolidated forum, to which they do not answer as to how, through the insufficiency of existing forums that are already present in the United States. They argue as to how we need the voices will be suppressed, wherein we tell you these voices are not being suppressed in the very first place. These voices are already being heard. People are already protesting against the issues they have, and we tell you when they say that this movement, which is based on rhetoric, we tell you that people who do not essentially want to go away and participate in these movements, do not actually relate with that cause, also join in because this is rhetoric, and that is the problem we have in this kind of umbrella which undermines the office of the president. They do not tell us why those particular movements are insufficient, and why, even if I buy into the characterization that this is a larger umbrella thing, they do not tell us what is the exclusive benefit that they derive, and why is this benefit legitimized and necessary, wherein we come up here and argue why there are exclusive harms, and what are those harms. Those harms are, the biggest harm out here is undermining of the democratic system of elections in America, which is something that do not rebut. And why is that a potent harm? Because by this particular movement, we tell you that you are not saying that I am against a particular policy of Trump. Fuck it, Trump has not even assumed office yet. We tell you that this entire movement is just based on rhetoric and speculation on what will happen. But even then, we tell you that this is something which is very, very problematic, because he has passed through that same litmus test which all past American presidents have gone through. And when you today come up here and say that this person elected by the same democratic process which has been in place, the same principles of democracy which have been in place, I do not consider him to my president. You undermine that process, you undermine that office, and that is why we are very, very proud to propose. Thank you.
I thank both sides for the debate. Please cross over and shake hands. All the judges, please cut up a sheet of paper, a small sheet of paper, and you can come here, write your name, the winning faction and the winning team's name, and fold your sheet and just leave it on the table. Thank you.